You've got these two voices, the victim, I call it, and the champion. And it was only when I accepted I had to empower that champion. And when I started doing exercise and I started building and obviously using discipline to get myself up off the floor. And I moved back to the UK. That's why I'm in Manchester. Got around like a good, solid friendship group and my family. And then I've just been, since then, rebuilding myself brick by brick.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe DeSena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course, with insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today.
Joe DeSena here, CEO and founder of Spartan and host of the Hard Way podcast. And I've got my buddy Nigel Thomas on, who is an entrepreneur. He's got an amazing newsletter called David to Goliath. I thought it was David and Goliath, but it's David to Goliath, and it's pretty popular. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I just want to say before we get into it, Joe, thank you. Thank you because, you've helped a lot of people out, and especially me being a man, being in a very vulnerable situation in the last 12 months. You probably do, but you might not realize the impact that you have. And I just want to say to you, man to man, thank you so much for what you do. It's truly inspirational.
Thanks for saying that. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Those sentences, when I get them, keep me going. As an entrepreneur, you know how hard it is. Fucking hard every day, the grind. And I almost feel like a martyr when I tell people, I only do it for that sentence. That's the only, there's so many easier ways to make money. I just get a job. It would just be so much easier. But I feel like we'd be letting the world down because there's just not a lot of opportunity for folks to tune themselves up and get reorganized like you do when you do something hard.
Yeah, and I think the world needs more tough love. I'm all for it.
So tell me about yourself. Where'd you come from?
I'm from Manchester, UK, the bright lights of Manchester and the UK. It's not the best of weather, but we've got good people here, We've got a great culture. We've got great, soccer teams and sports and music. And it's not really a city that's fancy. It's not really for tourists. It's for the people. It's for the culture. This city was really important in the industrial age in the UK. And the really good people come from this city. I'd like to count myself in that, Joe. But yeah, that's where I'm from Manchester.
I was recently in Manchester. I met with Tom and his brother, who started that clothing company, the two young boys in Manchester.
Yes, I know them. They're from Bolton, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, from a small city outside. Yeah.
Great kids, great accent. My youngest daughter plays football, as you guys would call it, and she likes Man City.
Yeah, I can literally see the stadium right from my balcony here, Joe. So that's my team, by the way. So she's supporting the right team.
Tough neighborhood, tough growing up.
Not too bad, actually. From a fairly middle class family. And that was good. Obviously had very loving parents, but it was also bad in the sense that I wasn't open to any risks whatsoever. And that became a real issue later in life when obviously I quit the corporate world and went in full time on entrepreneurship. And as you know, with no backup plans, all the unknowns, and that brought up a lot of issues. So yes, in terms of the neighborhood, it was actually pretty good, on the edge of a rough neighborhood, but I'd have to say pretty good. I'm very grateful for my upbringing, but I was definitely the odd one out. I was definitely ostracized from the crowd. I knew that from early on. And now I've realized, there's more crazy people in this world, Joe, people like yourself who have big dreams and aspirations, and we build for purpose. We don't build just for a paycheck.
No, we definitely build for purpose, and purpose helps you get through whatever you're going through. So you took a regular job, you fought your way out of the house, and then found entrepreneurship.
I'd actually already moved out of home. I was living in different parts. I've lived in all different parts of the UK and the world, actually. I've been out in the States for quite a while in the last few years. great place. I love the States for entrepreneurship. We don't get that in the UK, by the way, not to go off on too much of a tangent. But the real issue here is people just are too narrow-minded. They don't really support the underdog and support the person who's willing to step out. They'd rather pull them down. That's a serious cultural issue, which obviously you're doing well, breaking through those barriers. So yeah, I basically quit my corporate job, started running an agency, and then I ended up building another agency for someone else. And then I ended up building another agency for someone else, marketing agencies. And I became the CEO of that agency, and we were scaling pretty fast. And we had this big target, this big goal. We were hitting like seven figures in revenue. And everything from the outside was perfect, Joe. I found the woman of my dreams at the time. We'd hit the goals in the agency. My personal brand was growing, reputation, network, ticking all the boxes, man. And then out of nowhere, she betrayed me, and everything I thought I knew, and this was the one person who believed in me, and I needed that one person. Everything in my life just shattered into 1,000 pieces. And that was at the point when September last year, when I was in Austin, I stepped forward on my balcony and I was genuinely thinking about jumping off and taking my own life. And that's when everything changed.
Which is why I'm sorry you had to deal with that. You're dealing with it. A lot of people say to me, Joe, why would you have people do hard things? Why would you put on these why should I crawl under barbed wire? It makes no sense. My whole thing is, the more perspective you have doing hard things, when shit happens like what you went through, you're a little bit stronger to deal with it. You got a slightly different perspective to deal with it. You agree with that?
Yeah. Well, I would say at the time, obviously through building the businesses and, we had some crazy times as anyone does. I thought I was pretty tough mentally. That was what everyone in the businesses and the world I was in thought, saw me as like a good leader. And in that moment, I realized how weak I was, how vulnerable I was. And I tried the feeling sorry for myself approach. I tried to give myself sympathy, to point the finger and blame it on other people. But that didn't fucking work, man. It was only when I accepted, you've got these two voices, the victim, I call it, and the champion. And it was only when I accepted I had to empower that champion. And when I started doing exercise, and I started building and obviously using discipline to get myself up off the floor. And I moved back to the UK. That's why I'm in Manchester, got around like a good, solid friendship group and my family. And then I've just been since then rebuilding myself brick by brick. But yeah, I thought I was tough, but I clearly wasn't. Life hit me in the face, but it was doing the hard things in that moment that got me out of it. And that's what I think is wrong with a lot of the world, if I'm honest, Joe. I think that a lot of people are shouting out there in the victim mindset, complaining. And the thing is they get reinforcement for this. They get attention for it. So it makes them feel better, but it's not solving the problem. The problem is you need to hold up that mirror. And I've got this quote here that I hold dear to my heart, the man in the arena. And that is how I live my life philosophy, Joe. It's not the critic who counts. It's the man who's actually in the arena. And even if you fail while staring greatly. So you never have to rest with those cold or timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt's words in 1911, I believe it was, his speech in Paris, couldn't be more true today. Actually, I think they're even more true today than they were back then.
We put on a camp every summer on the farm, which you're welcome to come to anytime or any one of my races. I would love for you to round up a ton of your friends on us complimentary. Feel free to invite as many people as you want. We'll send you out to a race. But in this annual camp I do on the farm, I have the kids memorize that speech. So that speech is very close to me. And as you were describing what you were going through and people being divisive or wanting to pull you down, those are just spectators in that arena. There's a lot, there's always more spectators than there are warriors down at the ground level. There's only a couple. There's 50,000 spectators. They don't have any idea what it feels like to breathe heavy or bleed or have the wind knocked out of you. They don't know that. So you can't really blame them for making the silly, uninformed statements that they make, because they're not in the arena.
Yeah, exactly. And this like us, obviously the internet has exacerbated that problem because the way the algorithms work, they promote that kind of content. So now, not only are people obviously in a bad position with the mental health crisis and complaining about things, they're getting indoctrinated with other people complaining. So they think it's the right thing to do. You know, if there's a kid at school and he's absolutely fine, and then one of his friends starts complaining and gets attention for it, he's now getting reinforcement that it's a good idea to complain. But this is not the way to go in life. It never was, and it never really will be. And you need to hold that mirror up to yourself. And I'm speaking this from experience because I went through that. And it was only when I held that mirror up to myself, Joe, and obviously listening to people like you and doing the hard shit and taking responsibility for your life, that's when things started to change.
Yeah, we like to say that at a Spartan, at one of our events around the world, you're going to meet yourself. You get to look in the mirror and meet yourself, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it's going to be ugly.
Yeah. So tell us about the newsletter.
Yeah, so the idea was take the responsibility. And at the time, you know, I had quite a few guys, girls as well, but a lot of guys who were in bad positions as well. And I thought, why not just document the journey? So I set myself the audacious goal because I think it's good when you're in a bad situation to set yourself a big goal because it makes you work and you hold yourself accountable. You put it out there into the public of getting 100,000 subscribers on this newsletter and documenting the comeback, hence why it's David to Goliath. The reason why it's that, by the way, just so you know, is, you know, religion aside, I'm not here to have that conversation, but David, with a slingshot and a few pebbles, took down the mighty Goliath. And why? How did he do that? He did that because he believed in himself, right? So the biggest thing, in my opinion, in life, especially for entrepreneurs, but anyone really who's going through a rough patch, is believing in yourself. And that woman believed in me, Joe, but I needed to believe in me because I didn't have anyone else. I didn't have anything else. So the first time in my life, I needed to believe in me. So the idea of David to Goliath, I mean, David became Goliath in a sense, but is to write my comeback story in the hope to inspire others to believe in themselves and write their comeback stories.
Every week I put out a newsletter. I do a LinkedIn article. Why don't you give me one? And I'm happy to make my weekly newsletter, the David to Goliath story. I love it. I mean, it's exactly what we stand for. So I'd love to collaborate with you and just rally all your troops. Again, complimentary on me. Let's get them out to an event. They could all wear David to Goliath t-shirts, right? And we could do something really cool.
Yeah, 100%. I love. I actually met some of the. You know, I'm coaching some people on the side. I met some of them in London the other day. And I tell you what, like, obviously you're big into the event scene. I'm one of these guys who, for most part, like, obviously I went out to the States, did some networking. I did most of my work behind a computer. And I think that's the same for a lot of this generation. But when you're with other people, especially with like a group of guys, and it's nothing to do with like, you know, toxicity. We didn't do anything like that. We went for some food. We went go-karting. It was just that real brotherhood, that feeling. And what was amazing, Joe, is there were people that online would not really open up or speak. And in person, they just became different people. And you could see how much they needed that. They really, really fucking needed that. And afterwards, they were completely different people. So yeah, not just for me, but for other people. And if anyone's listening to this, please get out there and find your community.
Well, that's my point, is that if you've somehow curated a bunch of people that are trying to look in the mirror, trying to change themselves, maybe seeing some deficiencies, it's on me. Our tools are on me. Like, no problem.
Let's do it, man.
Like, I mean, that's the only reason I'm doing this. So, look, you're awesome. What would you recommend to folks as far as like some sort of ritual, a way to live, some simple things that maybe they could take from you that they should start, aside from reciting Man in the Arena every day? What should they do?
Well, by the way, that's my second favorite quote. My first favorite quote is from Winston Churchill. One man with conviction will overwhelm 100 who have only opinions.
I love it.
That's my favorite ever quote, and that's the one I recite daily. But yeah, in terms of rituals, It depends what place you're in, but I'm assuming obviously that's for people who are struggling. I think, especially for guys, like something that really helped me is servicing other people, I think is underrated. And I think if you can't figure out how to help yourself, because I wanted like the whole, what do I do every day? Do I do exercises and stuff? And we can get into that in a second. But just helping other people like really made me feel like life was worth living, you know? Like, and actually I had skill sets and stuff so I could help other people. But I think a lot of people have that. And if you can help someone, ideally in a business sense, I think that will give you the purpose to keep going and keep fighting. And then outside of that, obviously the basics, right? I think people overcomplicate like being healthy, but doing exercise, ideally hard exercise, eating clean and getting some sleep, like it's honestly not that complicated. It's just hard to be consistent at it and ideally find someone to hold you accountable. But the last thing I'll say is when I came back to the UK, I opened up to one of my close friends because I don't trust many people, Joe. So it's really hard for me to do that about this whole situation. And actually, over the course of the British winter, me and him went out every single day and ran a 5K in the dark, pissing cold, wind, rain. No matter what, wind, rain or shine, we got on that road and ran the 5K at 6 a.m. in the morning every single day for like 3 to 4 months. And that was the catalyst for change. That was it.
I agree 1,000%. I'm connected to a family that had a loss of a child at a young age. And I said to myself, what do you do in this situation? You could drink, you could take drugs, you could sleep, or you can go exercise and eat more salad. And really, it's the only choice. That's the best we got. That's the best choice. You could probably, talk to folks about it, but then that just continues the loop of talking about the pain and the suffering, and just go run for 100 days in a row and move on.
Yeah, exactly. So open up, but also say to them, here's my issue, right? It's the victim mentality. Like, it's good to open up to people. I think you should open up to someone. It's important, but it doesn't finish there. It's, here's the problem, but here's what I'm doing about it. And that's why I said the 100,000 subscriber goal that I said to people on LinkedIn or whatever. But what I said to my friend is, here's what we're doing about it. We're going running. Would you want to join me? And he's like, fuck yeah, let's do this, man.
I love it. No, there's nothing you said that's not right. And the really hard thing is the consistency, the discipline to stick with it, to go to bed at the same time, to wake up at the same time, to not eat the shit food, right?
Yeah. But that's where if you have someone accountable, if I wake up in the morning, Joe, and I look outside and it's freezing cold in the middle of the British winter, pissing down with rain, the last thing I want to do is go on a run. But I can literally see my friend, who was actually my next door neighbor, believe it or not, waiting out there in the rain. Am I going to let him down? Am I? Fuck. So that's what got me out. And I think if you find some accountability partners to go through this journey together, there's people out there who are also suffering. Trust me when I tell you, there's loads of people who will partner up with you and do this together. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Joe, all we've got is our memories and the people we had them with. So why not share that journey with someone else?
I could not agree more. We are, I'll put a fine point on it, we are everybody's accountability partner, because once you sign up for that event, it's coming. And you want to be in shape and you're scared. And so it's raining outside and maybe that neighbor's not there, but that date is coming. Just like a boxer knows he's got to get in the ring pretty soon, right? Like, so you end up doing the work. So you and I are 100,000% aligned. How do people find you?
davidtogoliath.com or Nigel Thomas on LinkedIn. Reach out to me and let's have a conversation. I just want to collaborate, help, share, and see other people succeed, Joe.
I got to connect you also. My buddy owns a company called 1 Year No Beer. Take a look at a guy named Rory, owns 1 Year No Beer. I think it'd be a good connect. He's trying to get everybody in the UK to stop drinking, but that's a tough sell.
Yeah, that's a very tough sell. I don't drink, and I can assure you that's a tough sell. But I tell you what, the benefits are extreme. So yeah, love to be connected, and likewise, your network is my network.
Awesome.